Hello everyone, welcome to our 8th episode of J-Syd InstaLive by the Consulate-General of Japan here in Sydney. My name is Jessica and today's topic is all about Keto or Japanese archery. To tell us more about Keto, I'm bringing on our guest, Mr. Peter Dodd, who is an instructor at the Sydney Kyudo Kai Club. In today's episode, Peter is going to be telling you more about what Keto is, some of the differences between Western archery and Japanese archery, his own personal experiences, including how Sydney Kyudo Kai was first formed, as well as a short demonstration at the very end of Keto. Don't forget, if you've missed any of our previous episodes, you can always go back and watch them on our Instagram on the IGTV tag, or else you can find them by going to the top header on our website under Information and Culture, scrolling down, clicking on the J-Syd InstaLive page, and then you'll find the archives there. Let's get started. Hello, Peter.
Hi Jessica, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Excellent.
Fantastic of you to join me today.
It's very nice to be here. Good to have an opportunity to talk about Keto.
Yes, I'm very excited. So are you ready to jump right in?
I think so, yeah.
Wonderful. So can we start with a little bit of an explanation for everybody who's watching on what Keto actually is?
Okay, so the word Kyudo literally means the way of the bow. So it's a modern Japanese martial art of archery whose goal is really sort of self-development through the practice of archery. Historically, obviously the bow was a weapon and a hunting tool in ages past, but it's also always been a magical implement. So for example, this sound, the tsurune, the sound of the bow being plucked or fired, is considered to be a little bit magical. It purifies the atmosphere in any particular building or environment. And the bow's been used in imperial court ritual a lot. So noble people back in the day were expected to be able to shoot a bow gracefully, and it's been used in Shinto ritual for purification.
So Keto has a very long history then.
Indeed, yeah. Keto, as we currently know it, was established since World War II, but there have been schools of Keto specifically over the preceding centuries, and obviously prior to that, the bow, when it was used for warfare and hunting, was practiced and taught in the warrior class.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a pretty good explanation for everybody watching.
Good.
Can you potentially talk us through some of the equipment that you use in Keto? Obviously a bow.
Okay, so as I demonstrated the bow, I'll just stand up so you can possibly see this a little better. It's a very long bow. You'll be able to see it better when I demonstrate later. It's over 2 meters long and it's asymmetrical. The handle is not in the middle of the bow as you'd normally expect. This is a modern Japanese carbon fiber bow, unlike the traditional bamboo construction. Because the bow is so long, it's drawn back past the ear, past the head, so it requires very long arrows. So these arrows, my personal arrows, are 1 meter long, which is not particularly long. And as you can see, compared to a modern archery arrow, the feathers are very long too in proportion to that arrow. So that's the main equipment. The third probably essential item is this glove, which is a deerskin glove with a sort of box thumb thing your thumb fits into, and it has a little groove in here that engages the bowstring. So it's almost like a trigger mechanism for drawing and releasing the bow. So that's the essential equipment. And then we have the uniform. So I'm wearing a white keikogi and hakama, and I have white tabi on my feet. So that's the general training uniform. If people get into higher ranks, might wear a full kimono and a different type of hakama.
Wonderful, thank you very much. So you were just mentioning about ranks. Can you explain a bit more about that?
Okay, like most modern Japanese martial arts, there is a ranking system, a dan system. So, in karate, your first dan is known as black belt, so most people understand that. In Kyudo, the first grading that most people take is shodan, first dan, black belt equivalent. We don't use a belt color system, so unless someone is very senior, you can't tell by looking at them instantly what rank they are. To attain your Dan ranking, you have to go and demonstrate in front of a panel of people higher rank than yourself, and they decide whether your skills and your composure are really suitable to be advanced in rank.
So you're talking about a panel.
Yeah.
What do you normally have to demonstrate, have to do to get your...
Okay, so in Kyudo there are individual skills which you have to show. The test is normally conducted in a group of 5. So you have to walk in, align yourself to the target, bow, set everything up as an integrated part of a group of 5. So it's not purely an individual pursuit. You have to coordinate with the others. Every moment of that process from entering the shooting area to leaving is being assessed.
So can you tell me a little bit more about some of the main differences between Western archery and Japanese archery, Kyudo?
Okay, well, there's really one similarity, which is that we both use a bow to shoot arrows at a target. Other than that, they're actually very, very different. Clearly, the Japanese equipment is very, very different. Very simple. There are no aids. There's not even an arrow rest on the bow, let alone a clicker or a whisker biscuit or a stabilizer or any of those things you'd expect to see on a sort of Olympic level bow. The style of shooting is very ritualized. So you walk in a certain number of steps, turn a certain number of steps, bow to a certain number of degrees, stand up, walk forward a certain number of steps, etc. And when you're shooting, there are 8 stages of shooting that you have to demonstrate. Very, very ritualized, very formal. The target is there as, I guess, a diagnostic tool. So your aim in Kyudo is not just to hit the target. Your aim is to achieve beautiful form and a composed mind, and to demonstrate those. If you do that successfully, you'll probably hit the target.
Yeah, the thing about the Kyudo targets is that they're normally black and white.
Indeed, yeah. So they have a circular. There are various types, but they have a black and white circular design on them, and you're generally not scored on how close to the center of the target you hit. It's not like the gold on an archery target or the blue and red rings that give you a different score. It's really just, there's the target, it has a center, so you focus on that. Very different in the mindset and very different in the physical practice, really.
Can you just explain a little bit about the shooting area?
Okay, yeah.
What distance do you normally shoot at?
Yeah, because it is quite unusual. So you're in a fully set up Japanese dojo. You're standing Kyudojo. You're standing on a wooden floorboarded area, and you're shooting out across a 28-meter range to an earth bank with a set of targets. The targets are 36 centimeters, so about that big. You're shooting 28 meters from the floorboarded area to the target area.
How long have you been practicing Kyudo for?
A little bit complicated. I started in Kyoto in 1982. I practiced for a year and a half and took my shodan grading, but then I really only came back into Kyudo in 2013 in Sydney. So you could say I've been practicing for 37 years, but that would be a little bit misleading. It's really been more like maybe 8.5 years.
What inspired you to first start Keto and then to come back to Keto, because you said you had a gap?
I think what inspired me originally was there's a famous book, Zen in the Art of Archery, by a German writer, Eugen Herrigel. And when I had a chance to go to Japan, I wanted to practice some sort of martial art. but I wanted it to be a peaceful and sort of spiritually interesting one. So I went and found Kyudo. For the Sydney aspect of it, some years ago, I also practiced Japanese sword art, and my teacher in that saw me demonstrating Kyudo moves to somebody and introduced me to his Kyudo teacher in Japan. So we were able to invite that teacher over and start practicing Kyudo in New South Wales. At the time, there was really no Kyudo in Australia.
And is that how Sydney Kyudo Kai started?
Yeah. So the Sydney Kyudo Kai is part of the New South Wales Association. There are a couple of other groups that belong to it. And Sydney Kyudo Kai was really just the group that meets in Sydney for a long time. And then we decided to formalise it a bit more and make a club structure. So it grew out of really that first seminar, which was conducted by Takeuchi Masakuni sensei, who's a 7th Dan Kyudo sensei from Sendai in Japan, who's visited us several times now. It was a yearly event until this year.
So what about your favourite thing regarding Kyudo?
It's sort of the totality of it, really. I like the idea that I'm learning a very ancient tradition, not only learning it, but helping it to pass it on and spreading it outside of Japan. I like the sheer beauty of the equipment and how it's used. It is really to see a well-coordinated group shoot their 10 arrows and leave the dojo I find it quite a moving, very beautiful thing to watch.
That's what motivated me to start Keto, actually. When I went into my local Keto club.
Right, yeah.
To observe it first, and I was absolutely, I guess, spellbound and entranced by.
Very elegant, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, you said before 10 arrows.
So group of 5, each shooting 2 arrows. We shoot arrows in pairs because the feathers are taken from the 2 sides of a bird. A bird has a left wing and a right wing, a left side of its tail and a right side of its tail. So if all the arrows came from one side of the bird, it would be sort of out of balance.
And that's sort of a really important concept that goes throughout Keto, isn't it? That idea of balance.
Balance in the form of the body, how the arrow moves, and in how the body's used, so left and right, north, south, east and west are all operating as a whole and in a balanced fashion.
Did you want to give us a demonstration?
I'll have to move out to my garden because the bow is too long to shoot indoors. I'm going to do a very simple shooting into a makiwara. So I'm going to go out, I'm going to shoot 2 arrows into that in a very simple form of the full ceremonial style.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that short demonstration of Kyudo. So for anybody who's interested in learning Kyudo, how can they get started with that in New South Wales?
Okay, we have a website which is sydneykyudokai.com. All one word, very easy to find. So we train in Leichhardt in the inner west twice a month. We try to run 3 beginners courses a year. So there will be one starting hopefully in February. But even apart from that, anybody's welcome to come along and just watch us training and see if it's something they might be interested in doing.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining me today and telling us all more about Kyudo and your experiences with it.
Thank you. You're very welcome. I'm glad to have a chance to talk about it and hopefully get some more people interested.